We are live.
It's been a
Love
while.
it.
Been a
Happy
while.
Saturday.
Hello, everybody. Let me check the feed here and see if we got some life on Facebook.
We've got some things to talk about, everybody.
Yes,
It-
we do.
Guys, we're back.
It's been a while since we've done this. Let's do it again because, well, why not? There's a whole lot of news to cover. Shakeups in the automotive industry, and plus the three amigos here. We haven't been together in a while, so let's do this. Introductions. Since I'm talking, I'll start. I'm Jason Debler. I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee, formerly Detroit native. Over to my left or right, depending on how you're looking at this, Chris
Frezza, always in Detroit. From CamaroZ28.com podcast, Camaro show, everything. And this is going to be kind of an extension of that, and maybe a surprise episode of the Camaro show podcast.
Chris, the last time we did an actual Camaro show podcast was it?
It was
2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, Christmas.
It was after the pandemic, wasn't it?
I don't know.
As the pandemic was ending.
I don't know. It was a while ago. So anybody who's listening and subscribe to the Camaro show still, you're probably almost driving like into a ditch right now because you just freaked out because it showed up in your feed.
Yeah, we're definitely live. I see us on the Camaro Show Facebook page, and let's see. Let me check a couple other places here.
While you're checking that, of course, we can't forget our editor at large, Manny.
Yeah, I'm Manny Katakis, and I am an angry automotive journalist.
I tell you what, your interview this morning on 9:10, was it 9:10 or 9:50?
Yeah, it was not 9:10 a.m. Yeah.
Yep. Right behind Ken Lingenfelder.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great follow-up, great interview, great discussion, good stuff.
I was on that once with Bob Lutz.
Say that again?
That was the last one.
Let's go with Bob Lutz.
Mm.
Or I can't say I was talking with him, but we were on the same show.
Close enough. Chris, what are you drinking this evening?
This evening, I will be drinking one of Michigan's very own Bell's Hazy Hearted IPA.
Manorama?
Ooh. Have you guys ever heard of this lovely brewery in Copenhagen, Denmark called War Pigs?
I have not.
No, but I like the sound of it already.
So, War Pigs, currently my favorite brewery right now, they are a collaboration between Three Floyds and Denmark's Mikkeller. And those two are just some of the best, right? Some of the best beers you can get. This one is called A Light in the Black. It is a German-style Pilsner. And I have no idea what the ABV count is because it's just not labeled.
But we may all find out shortly.
When Michigan started getting this stuff, the same time we were able to get Three Floyds, fairly recently. Yeah, but it's good stuff.
Last time I was in Michigan, I grabbed some M43, and I've been holding on to it for a special occasion. And I'm drinking this in honor of our friend Al Oppenheiser, who has a tie back to this show that we're doing, the subject of this show. But I'm also doing a little cross collaboration myself because I'm drinking it out of a Burial Brewery pint glass. Burial is a killer brewery in Asheville, North Carolina. And I learned about Burial because of a guy named Nick Lee, who is a guitarist for a band out of New York called Moontooth. And guy. And an absolute phenomenal guitar player, one of the best guitar players I've ever seen in ever. He's just incredible, cool dude. And he was wearing a Burial Brewing T-shirt and at a concert. And I was watching on YouTube, and I'm like, you know what? Wherever the hell that is, I want to go to that brewery. So a few months later, I went to that brewery, drank the beer, got the T-shirt. Well, I didn't get the T-shirt, but I got the glass.
Nice.
So you hooked me on to Moontooth.
Yeah, just great guys. So
band.
Music and beer. Now, trifecta. Let's talk about cars. Lots of stuff going on in the
what could have possibly brought us all together to do this?
Yes. So let's pause for a second here so we can do our intro. We're gonna go because I'm gonna take this audio and I'm going to put it into the podcast. So everybody who's watching now can get it early and get out BTS and see everything else we're going to be talking about as well. So let's pause for a second.
Chris, we're going to do that. I'm Chris and I'm Jason and I'm Manny, just like we used to.
We're just a couple of white dudes with a podcast.
Yeah. And welcome back, everyone, to the Camaro Show podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jason.
I'm Manny Katakis.
We got a special guest, which we've had on the show many times before. And we're back for a
special
one-night exclusive. You know, who knows? It's just, you know, Elvis just popped out and said, "I'm going to do a concert. Everybody show up." Here we are.
What could possibly bring us back? Well, there was some pretty big news that dropped this week. Not completely unexpected, but big news. General Motors really, announced that they are ending the 6th generation Camaro as of January 2024.
What? Just say it ain't so.
I know. Well, I mean, we told you
so.
Who
called it?
Manny had the exclusive back in 2019. Was it
2019? And you know what they said? They're like, we don't comment on speculation. Okay. Don't comment on speculation. Fast forward to 2023, news drops, and it's as foretold.
Well, everybody said we were full of it.
Yeah.
Everybody. And people kept just going on saying, oh, yeah, the Camaro's going to live on forever and all that junk, which they still are. We're going to get into that.
We're gonna spend this entire episode talking about where we've been, where we're at, and where we're going. What went wrong? What went right? I mean, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of moving pieces right now.
That's right.
And I think let's start with the news. I mean, they said it's done. So anybody who's listening who doesn't think the Camaro is done, as of January 2024, there will be no Camaro. A 6th generation, a 5th generation, a 4th, there will be no Camaro. And General Motors, Chevrolet, has said that the Camaro story will continue in some sort, but they don't tell what kind of story, or if the Camaro will come back as a 7th generation, if it'll come back as what. But as we know, as of January 2024, it's going to be done. They're going to go out kind of with like a little bit of a bang. They're going to come out with a collector's edition car, which, Manny, you
also, yes,
also let everybody know about many, many years ago. The only thing that surprised me was they released some teaser images, and it had a picture of a little panther in the R of Camaro. Mm-hmm. Now that harkens back to the original name, which the Camaro had, until CPAW, and then then they extinguished that name, and then it became the Camaro. It's been a rough week. Even though it hasn't been, not unexpected, it's kind of like a punch in the gut. I mean, how did you take the news?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm not shocked at all.
Yeah.
And I got my reasons. Actually, you know what? Ask Manny. I'll come back to me later. Because I'm bitter. I'm bitter about it.
When we were doing the Camaro show, even like 2018, 2017.
Yeah.
And we were noticing that the car just wasn't getting the traction that the 5th gen did. And there's a lot of reasons for that. There's a lot of things that gave the 6th gen a headwind, where the 5th gen didn't really have these same sort of pitfalls. One of the big ones, of course, was the pricing and just how expensive it was for a while to get a V8 Camaro. It was at one point the most expensive, like, of the three brands, right? Dodge, Ford, and Chevy. It was the most premium one. So you had people kind of disgruntled, maybe holding on to their fifth gen cars or other cars, or going to Dodge. And for those kind of following years, you saw Camaro market share, even though the entire segment was shrinking, you saw market share erode pretty much directly to Challenger. And I believe in 2022, Dodge went 1-2 in muscle car sales with Charger and Challenger.
Yeah.
Now people are like, "Oh, it's Charger muscle car." Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. It's the same. It's got the Hemis. It's got the Hellcats. It's like what? It's not a sports car. It's a muscle car. So we included the Charger in our sales reports. I think it paints a bigger picture. Also, the C8 Corvette, the advent of the C8 Corvette, that car actually started outselling the Camaro, which is like, the price point between the two starting is vastly different. So what was really going on? Even as the segment was shrinking, even as they were losing to Ford and Dodge, well, Ford and Dodge were also losing sales too. And actually, the Mustang cratered last year. It had its worst sales year ever. And it's like, yeah, we all knew a new Mustang was coming. And by the way, we wrote about the S650 Mustang in 2020, right? We had the scoop early on S650. So, what's really happening in this segment? What's really happening in the muscle car segment? And I think a lot of it has to do with the advent of the performance truck and SUV market, where you have Bronco now, you have GM looking and offering a very broad range of off-road performance trucks. ZR2 is a pretty recognizable brand, if you want to call it at this point. There's a Colorado ZR2, there's a Silverado ZR2, there's soon to be a Silverado HD ZR2. And then also, of course, like the mirroring products at GMC, which take the form of AT4X. And then you got Ford, they've expanded the Raptor portfolio, and we've got a new Ranger coming. Jeep has basically covered all of its bases with as many different varieties of Wrangler you can build. And this is another thing that again, like this was a unique report on MC&T. We were able to interview an executive at Jeep, and one of the most revealing things he told us was that the number one trade-in for the Wrangler was pony cars. So a lot of people are, they might be just scratching their heads or be like, "Oh, people don't want muscle cars anymore." And it's more like, you can't look at it necessarily as one segment. It's more like there's a demographic, there's a psychographic that likes the fun stuff, and is probably the American-made fun stuff. So, if it's a Jeep Wrangler, if it's a Ford Mustang, if it's a Silverado ZR2, or if it's a Camaro, or if it's a Challenger, or if it's a Raptor, like, that person is orbiting through products. And at the same time, when you look at the early 2010s, when muscle car sales were sort of at the peak, right? Like it was like 2012 or 13, I think that Camaro was just absolutely on fire. Mustang was also doing pretty good too. Like, you had strong sales. So what happened? Well, I think what happened was millennials played a big play in this. Now, I don't really have I'm just kind of connecting some dots here, where the millennial demographic got a little older. So you had to, no, Peter, they're not going German. You had to basically, as you're getting older, as you get a family, right? as you get a house, you get more utility. And so you kind of needed a vehicle that was going to offer all of those things. And if your life is getting bigger, if your lifestyle is getting bigger, you might have outgrown the pony car. So that's that. I think that's just what happened, where suddenly you had Camaro customers and Mustang customers, Challenger customers getting Jeeps and Jeep trucks. That way there's child seats. There's 4 doors. There's child seats. You can put your landscaping equipment in the back. Like it's just so there's a bunch of factors, and it all kind of orbits around that same budget, right? So with a Raptor costing as much as a Corvette, or even a Wrangler 392 costing as much as a Hellcat Red Eye, it's all just like they see this customer, they know they have money, they want them to be fun, and they're going into the space where it's off-road. Off-road is huge now. It's far and away, we're living in a golden age of off-road performance vehicles. So long as the EPA and CAFE and all these regulating alphabet soup governing bodies let us get away with it. Otherwise, it's gotten increasingly difficult to build V8 passenger cars on the regulatory side. And then you also have just this customer shift in taste going to off-road performance.
Sure. Well, it's the buyer trends. It's been this ebb and flow ever since somebody slapped wheels onto a carcass of a body and shoved it out the door and charged money for it, right? We've seen it before.
Do you think GM's commitment to electric has a play in any of this?
I think that short answer, yes, because there was going to be an immediate 7th generation Camaro, right? Like that was the original story back in 2019.
Was.
Yeah. Is there going to be a 7th generation Camaro before the sun burns out? Yeah, probably. But that's not like that. Just counts. That sounds kind of like ridiculous, doesn't it? There's no substance to saying that the Camaro story isn't over yet. Like that's like you're basically just being let down easy, right? You're like learn to handle the rejection, so to speak.
And I put it this way. I've been talking with a couple people, actually a lot of people, when they announced this, and a lot of us are comparing it to when they made the announcement back in 2002.
Yeah, and you guys want to know.
And Scott used the words when he wrote that press release that the Camaro was going on hiatus, and he got a lot of heat for that because they wanted him to write. They're eliminating the Camaro.
The eulogy. They wanted him to write in the ground.
And that's how the keep the faith mantra started. And Scott would always tell us there's nothing on the boards but keep the faith. Keep the faith. There's people inside GM that think this nameplate needs to exist and it's important to exist. It feels different this time than it did in 2002. 2002 was kind of like, oh my God, the car was not selling good. But then again, I mean, the car hadn't been selling good either, but for a different reason. Plus, they killed the Firebird too, which never came back. So
that's because Pontiac died.
Right.
Well, here's the thing about that, and I've been thinking a lot about this. First of all, the next chapter. What are the words they said? The next chapter has to that could mean so much. That doesn't mean. Actually, it means so much. It means nothing. It could mean in the hearts of minds of all performance enthusiasts around the world that the Camaro will never die. It'll just keep on going forever in our brains and in our hearts and in our garages. Yeah, that's true. There is no concrete evidence that there's going to be another Camaro.
At the moment, no, there isn't.
I thought in my heart of actually 10 years ago, if somebody were just to say the words, the Ford Maverick is coming back, people would have thought that you were on crack. But guess what? It happened. Is it the same vehicle? Not even close. The only thing that has a similarity is 4 wheels, a seat, and a steering wheel. That's it. We're talking about a car going to a truck. So yes, in 30 years, the Camaro could come back as something else. But for anybody who is truly saying, well, I'm reading between the lines and the facts are, no, there are no facts right now. There's none.
There are facts, and the facts are, well, the Camaro name is going away. And is it going to be indefinite? Or is there what is the new plan for 7th gen Camaro? Because the original plans got thrown in the garbage. So what is that? What's that look like? And you know, going back, Chris, like, does this have anything to do with GM going EV? Well, yeah, it was GM's EV ambitions that led to, I think, a restructuring back in, I believe it was 2018, that canceled several vehicle programs, right? And it wasn't just, you know, the 7th gen Camaro. And it, you know, shout out to Lethal Garage for this one, where, you know, he was the only one that went on YouTube and was able to sniff out a Camaro customer survey with Chevy asking, you know, this, would you accept a 2.7 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine as your base engine, which we now know is the L3B that's in the Colorado and the Canyon with 310 horsepower, which is that same output in the Colorado and the Canyon. So it's like there was a lot of giveaway in that questionnaire. And, you know, what was the next step up powertrain? It was a 2-liter turbo hybrid with something like 345 horsepower. And then the one up from that was just the LT1, a 6.2 V8. And then after that, it was a 6.2 V8 hybrid. The problem was, like, I'm sure that they didn't get the feedback that they wanted, right? And because they were asking, there's like, well, how do you feel about a 3.7 seconds 0 to 60 and 500 something horsepower for $8,000 extra dollars? So it's just like, you're almost going into ZL1 territory at that point. Like, what? Right? Why would, you know, why would that make financial sense for a customer? And so they might not have gotten the answer that they wanted. And then at the same time, you look at like where the sales were going, and then GM having to earmark all of this money to go towards electric vehicles that they're starting with, you know, the trucks. They started with Hummer, and now they're going to do Silverado EV, they're going to do Sierra EV, there's Equinox EV, there's Blazer EV, and all the, you know, the GMC and Buick and Cadillac derivatives, right? There's Lyric, and there's more. Like Cadillac has basically said that we're just going to go EV. And you just kind of hope that they're able to play their cards a little better than Ford has been able to, because this week we saw Ford basically revealed that they lost $2.1 billion last year on electric vehicles, just the electric vehicles. 2.1.
What? Crazy.
So it's definitely like this is very much like we're entering another era, I guess, of compliance mode, right? Where automakers are going to just do what they have to do to make lawmakers happy and keep selling their ICE trucks and SUVs, stuff that's actually profitable, stuff that's actually consumer driven, and stuff that is actually selling. So Camaro got caught in the crosswind, right? Unfortunately, it got caught in the crosswind because you had that. You had the advent of mid-engine Corvette and the fact that the 6th gen Camaro was already playing too close to the Corvette sandbox. Like I think they made a strategic error early on by making it smaller and more athletic and more like a sports car. And sure, it was Motor Trend Car of the Year, but who cared? Nobody cared.
It used to mean something.
No one means nothing. Have you seen who's at Motor Trend now? It doesn't. No one cares. Like,
is this still a magazine?
Yeah, it's still a magazine, but it's just like
in print.
The opinions of these people do not matter. They don't matter. And so, like, to chase like you know, the award or best driver's car, or look at this lap time and look at how fast we are compared to a BMW and look at our Nürburgring time, it's like completely loses the plot. Completely. And then you see like Dodgers just like, hold my beer, watch this. And people resonated with that because they were the only ones that were like, this is a muscle car. This is what I want. Just give me as much power for the money as you can all the time. And it was a party over there for a while until basically the cops shut it down.
And I mean, and Dodge really hasn't changed much since 2007.
Yeah. Chris, remember when the 5th gen Camaro came out, or the actual facts came out, and we were doing the Camaro show then it was the CamaroZ28.com podcast. And the 5th gen the 2010 Camaro came out with such an explosion. And then we'd go through the sales figures every week. We're doing the show
every month.
Sunday or Friday? Oh yeah, every month. But we do the show.
Yep.
And it was like, oh my God, the Camaro is through the roof, and the Mustang and Challenger. Well, guess what? Who's laughing now?
Yeah, I mean, the Challenger was always at the bottom, but they were always steady. They always sold about the same amount.
Yeah.
Camaro was going through the roof. Mustang was kind of like going up and down, up and down, up and down. But yeah, and then it wasn't until about 2015 when Camaro and Mustang almost came even again. And then I don't even think they outsold Mustang when they unveiled the 6th generation.
Not once. Not a single time.
And this is where I'm going to start ranting. Can I jump in?
Go ahead.
When the 5th gen Camaro came out, Chris, what was the biggest complaint?
It's too big. It's a fat pig.
Flat peg. It's too big. It's a flat peg. I'll stick to my 3rd gen IROC.
Yeah.
And well, GM doesn't care about that because your 3rd gen IROC doesn't pay their people.
Right.
I wish I had a 3rd gen IROC right now. Have you seen the value of
Well, yeah, you get my point, Nanny. So then, what happened? Okay, we hear you loud and clear. Let's go back to the drawing board because we're already working on the 6th gen. When the 2010 came out, they were already working on the 2015.
Right.
Already. They were not screwing around. And they said, okay, we hear you. We hear from the disciples, which I'll talk about in a second. And we're going to give you what you want. And they did that. They made it smaller. They made it lighter. Yeah, sure. If you didn't adjust your mirrors right, you couldn't see. But if you adjusted your mirrors right, guess what? You could see. It's a little tiny bit of effort on your part. They made the car absolutely phenomenal. They improved upon it in almost every way. They did what you wanted them to do, and you didn't buy it. Why? Those same people that didn't write the check, that didn't trade their 3rd gen or 4th gen or 5th gen in for the 6th gen, are complaining about how there's not going to be a 7th gen. Well, you probably weren't going to buy it anyway because you didn't buy the 6th. Why? It was a better car in every way. Every way. It was a phenomenal vehicle.
Every single person who has tested it, drove it, raced it, said it was by far the best car out of any of the competitors.
But
and you're right.
Missed the plot.
But they missed the plot.
I can point the finger at myself. I got a 2009 Corvette here. The thing is older than dirt now. I've been thinking about getting a ZL1 for 5 years. In fact, I was looking at a ZL1 when I bought this instead. I thought I'd do something different, and I stuck with it. I can't gripe because I didn't contribute to the solution. And sometimes I wish I had. Just one car. One man, one vote, right? But I think the other part is that not only did it get too expensive, the reason why people didn't buy it because it got expensive. Well, I got what you built what I wanted, but it's out of my price range. And Oppenheiser, Al Oppenheiser, the chief engineer for the 5th gen Camaro, used to say all the time, "Oh, you want that? How much are you willing to pay for it?" And he'd always get silence, always, because you want what you don't want to pay for it, but you just want it. It doesn't work that way. So I think what happened was the 5th gen, after the 5th gen, all the Camaro heroes went away. Scott Settlemeyer, which a lot of you people probably, maybe on the Camaro show, yes, but watching the stream, probably don't know who that is. Al Oppenheiser, you might not even know who he is because they went away. And there was no heroes championing for the Camaro the way that it used to be. And when they went off to other things and to do, well, Settlemeyer retired, but Oppenheiser went off to do great things, which may come back. But it took the soul and the people can write a check all the time, but the people inside the company that are fighting for, okay, there's people willing to write the check for this vehicle. Let's keep building this vehicle. I think it had something to do with it, but they went away and they're gone. And the soul disappeared from the car. Now it's just a car. It wasn't it stopped being a reason for getting together. It stopped being a reason for going to the track or having. Chris, that's how I met you. Was at a Camaro event.
It's still there, but it's gotten smaller.
Yeah,
and it's gotten more elite.
Yeah, but the outside of that, where's people complaining like, "Oh, well, I wanted to buy one, but you didn't." GM doesn't care about you wanting to do anything. GM's a business; they need your money, and if you're not giving them the money, they're going to find something. They're going to build something that will get your money. And, I'm not generalizing everybody. Linda, good to see you again, by the way. But I'm just saying, I'm part of that group. I can't complain. I have no right to complain. I'm sad, but I can't complain.
I'm very sad.
Because I didn't buy the damn car anymore. My last Camaro was a 2010. Chris, you've had two of them since our 2010. You right?
I've owned two 6-gens. I had a 2017 convertible, and then in August of last year, I bought a brand new 2023 Rapid Blue LT1 Camaro.
So that was the thing, that the LT1 should have been like there from the start.
Yep.
Right.
And that has to deal with that has to go with what you had said initially, is the pricing.
Yeah, it would have came with, it would have ended sooner because people are like, another $3,000 or $4,000. Forget it.
Yeah. So, I mean, LT1 now, as long as you can get one, is the cheapest V8 car you can get.
It's the best bang for the buck you can get.
Oh, good! It's such a good value. Like, it's cheaper than even the 5.7 Hemis at Dodge. It's cheaper than that
because it has to be. They got to move product.
Well, I mean, it's not like they're trying. They're not trying to move ZL1s. They're not.
Because there's no heroes in.
There's
Settlemyer. If you can see that. Oh God.
There's two huge things we always heard on the Camaro show. Number one was pricing. Number two was, why isn't GM advertising this car? Well, when you have people championing the car, you don't need to advertise it.
That's right. We were the mouthpiece.
When you had the 5th gen come out and you had Transformers propelling this car into the stratosphere, you don't have that right now.
That was probably the last big movie car too. I can't think of anything else that was like more recent than that.
Yeah.
And then it's also like, the kind of like milking that cow for more than it was worth, right? Transformers movies kind of sucked after the first one. And
then they made the Transformers Edition Camaro, and
yeah. And hey, the final edition might have some tie-ins for that too.
I think the next Transformers movie drops in June.
God, how many have there been? Jeez, oh Pete.
Yeah, that was all I remember. And little did we know, like they teased the 2019, the ugly refresh.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've never seen a Camaro commercial, but here's the thing, even too, like I haven't seen a Camaro like product placement anywhere, like social media wise, nothing. Like there's no, all of that marketing money, all of that effort, all of that passion went into Corvette.
Yeah, it disappeared.
But to the benefit of Corvette, right? Because there's so much focus for that car that and it's resonating really well. Like as much hate mail as everyone got because they changed the formula slightly, even though that the Corvette was always intended to be a mid-engine car for 50 years or so. Now it's like, oh, they actually did it. I'm mad now. It's like, you people, you ever not mad? Like, have you ever just not complain about anything? It's just I can't like you're best just ignoring everybody at like to a point, right? Like just get it done. Just go do your thing. Trust your gut. Like you're if you're someone like an Al or a Taj or like someone at Ford, like the Mustang team, like you kind of already know what you need to do. How much insight are you really going to get from Customer Clinic? Like if you know your car's expensive already, if you know that it's too small, or if you know that there's like the wrong mix of content and features. Like the Camaro didn't sell because they didn't have enough wheel options. And I also don't think that like the Camaro, because I haven't really seen any other muscle car commercials really. There were some Dodge commercials. They did Dodge Power Dollars, and then COVID killed that.
Yeah.
Right? Like
the last time
yeah,
I can think of seeing a car commercial at all was around Christmas time when it's, kind of like it's the Christmas Lexus event. And if you don't buy your wife a new Lexus, then you don't love her. Or something stupid like that. Like they come out of their $3.5 million house and there's a $250,000 Lexus in their driveway with a big bow on it. I'm like, oh my God, that's so unrealistic. It's stupid. First of all, and it's
and also like cable TV is just largely taken over by pharma advertising. So
yeah. Oh, and food. Holy crap! The Wendy's triple double. Sorry, Chris.
The last time I think a Camaro commercial was out was for Super Bowl, and I can't remember if that was 2012. Is when they were, they had the guy he was pounding on the car, and it turned into a Transformers. They had the one where the guy was like, best day ever, when the guy thought he gave him the Camaro, and it was the neighbor's Camaro for graduating.
Do we want to talk about the rumors?
Yeah, let's cut the crap. Okay.
Yes.
That whole marketing speak,
because I've seen a lot of I've seen a lot of people of like, if Camaro doesn't come back with a V8 engine in it, I'm never going to buy it. And there's no replacement for displacement. And you can take your EV crap and shove it up your whatever.
Well,
that ain't going to bring the car back.
Nope.
They don't want to hear that. They want to hear, oh, if you build it, I am ready to write a check. Period. They don't want to hear, well, you did that, but if it had this, I'll write a check. Well, they're like, it's too late. We've already got a multi-million-dollar plant up and running. So we spun it up because of what you told us before that you'd buy, and that's not good enough for you. So now we got to change it again. It doesn't work. You guys got to commit.
I just think it's a high-tech evolution, right? I mean, are we still using rotary dial phones? No. We're using iPhones. So eventually, I think if we have to move to electric vehicles, that's what we're going to do. So why not build it a performance Camaro? Why not?
I think the more and more research I do about BEVs, and again, like executives don't really necessarily like Stellantis, Toyota, pretty vocal about the direction of where the industry is going and what it means if everyone is forced to just build electric vehicles. Very cost intensive, right? Like 40 to 50% more cost on average per, we'll say, like vehicle segment. So like if you got a C segment SUV, one's gas, one's electric, one's going to be at least 40, 50% more expensive to make. And then of course, like what does that mean MSRP wise? Like, because if you want to keep your margin, you're gonna have to charge up. And then it's also like, where's the volume really gonna go? Like what? Because right now I think it's at like 12%. And is it at 12% because there's just more of them? Yeah. Why is there more of them? Well, because automakers have to make them, right? But it's just like if you look at the after sales, right? If you look at the secondhand market, what is really holding value, what's appreciating? Again, it's stuff with V8s, it's trucks, it's SUVs, it's stuff with accessible ECUs, which is something that the Camaro actually has. So you know, like I'm not gonna say that an electric Camaro is even a good like idea or a solution. I think that it's like, yeah, Maverick came back as like a pickup truck 30, 40 years later. It might have to be that, you know, for enough people to just like not care anymore. Or
at that point, again, the spirit is gone.
Well,
the soul is gone of it.
Maverick was such a forgettable product originally. So it was like, cool name, bad car. So no one cared.
Great for drag racing.
Yeah, it's a little bit. But like now it's a good name, fun product, resonates. Good, like really good name for that truck.
I gotta think that 90% or more of current Maverick buyers didn't even know that it used to be a little 2-door coupe from Ford in the 60s and late 60s, early 70s. My mom's first car was a Maverick.
Well, you know, like Stellantis might bring back Dodge might bring Dodge, you know, because Plymouth isn't around, but they've got the CUDA trademark.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on there?
Hey, my first car was a Dodge Charger. A 1983 front-wheel drive four-banger hatchback Dodge Charger
Mitsubishi Starion
with a 2.2 power hog. It wasn't a Dodge Charger Dukes of Hazzard Dodge Charger, and it sure as shit wasn't the four-door current Dodge Charger that everybody drives like a-holes around the highways here in Nashville driving. Because everybody down here, if they're driving like an a-hole, they're pretty much driving a modern Dodge Charger. In fact, I rented one for a business trip, and I can see how they could drive like a-holes driving one because they're easy to drive fast and like a-holes on the highway. Yeah, good car for that.
I'll say this much about that though, right? Like the whole street takeover and driving like maniacs, like that is, I think it's just going to accelerate things to a very like, hardline place we don't necessarily want to go as car enthusiasts. So like, you know, we gotta behave. Telling everyone to behave and get on the same page is impossible. So. Right,
well, that's a societal thing, and that'll be something I don't want to get into.
It's whatever, but like, so
speaking of Dodge, let's talk about that whole Dodge 170 thing. Both cars are going away.
Yeah,
Camaro was like a press release. Dodge was like, guess what? We're gonna blow stuff up. We're gonna bring in helicopters, wheelies, drag strips. Yeah. We're gonna, and they even said we're not gonna go out quietly. Yeah. And Camaro went like, well, the chapter's not over for Camaro. I want to get another beer. Take it from here, Manny.
It's the I mean, you see like how much more PC one brand is over the other, and yeah, Demon 170. It's 1,025 horsepower car. That's emissions compliant. It's street legal. That's has an 8.91 second 0 to 60 time. Or quarter mile, excuse me, 1.6 second. It's faster than a Tesla Model S Plaid, right? And it's just like, I love it. It's just it's so bonkers and insane and just so on the mark. You know, and it's
only
absolutely because it's so absurd. And like you saw the MSRP of that thing, it's like before all taxes, destination fees, it's like $96,666. So under $100,000, you got 1,025 horsepower. Granted, you're not going to find one. Ever. You know, I've already seen people who say that they've got allocation for it, charging $300,000 for them. Not surprised. You know, these markups, man, they're something else. But I think, like, you see what this segment is about. Like, go fast, straight line, drag race. Like it's a knuckle dragger segment. don't make it anything else than it already is. Like that was making Camaro a sports car. Not a good look. Not a good look.
So Dodge goes away with the Challenger and the Charger. They're done. Camaro's done.
And so like they're calling it the Banshee, or the concept was the Banshee, but there's probably like if you were to slice up, and this is what the folks at Dodge were telling me, it was like if you were to like slice up a pie into like 3 pieces, you'd have this like some that are like, yeah, let's go. So 30% of your customers are like, we're in. 30% are like, maybe. 30% are like passionately like opposed to it. So what that also means is you only have 30% of your customers saying yes. Right? Like that's what that is 30% are like yes. So how do you parlay this success that the brand has had that they've celebrated and enjoyed the past decade or so into vehicles like an electric quote muscle car and an SUV like the Hornet? That's not Mopar muscle. That's not Hemi V8 like they're like where the Dodge customer is. They're gonna scatter. Who's gonna grab them?
Mustang.
It's probably gonna be but it's also like reluctantly Mustang, right? Like
exactly. Like reluctantly
Mustang. Like they would rather drive a Mustang than drive an electric car.
Right.
Is what, and these people, you get this is too, like this is a fiercely loyal, it's supposed to be a fiercely loyal segment. The trucks are also a fiercely loyal segment. So if you feel betrayed by your brand,
right,
you feel like you have every right to commit like an act of rebellion, right? And that's, I believe, what's going to happen. Because a lot of Dodge customers are going to rebel and they're going to go to S650. Yeah. But if you look at the price on a new Mustang, it ain't cheap, right? It's got that same, because they made it more of a driver's car too. They kept the proportions. It didn't shrink. The cabin space didn't get smaller. None of that stuff went away. It's the same size, but it's going to be a better car to drive. And
a lot of people think it looks like a 6th-gen Camaro.
A lot of people think it looks like a 6th-gen Camaro. It's like they lowered that belt line. Like, hey, I'm sure.
Why wouldn't they?
I'm sure that the Camaro was a very obvious benchmark for them, and less so the Mopars. But when you're the only,
right,
when you're the only like place in town.
Yeah, if you're the only V8, only car on the block.
If you're the only burger joint in the county, it doesn't matter what you're cooking.
Who's your competition?
Yeah.
Just like 2002. I was actually working for Ford in 2002 for Ford's marketing agency. And they were making a big deal out of that. Camaro's dead. There's no competition for the Ford Mustang. Blah, 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 blah. They made a big deal out of it. And well, I guess justifiably so.
Allows them to produce crap because they got nobody to benchmark against.
Yep. I don't think the new Mustang is going to be a bad, there's no way it's going to be a bad car. Can it launch without any hiccups? I don't know. It's been shaky for everyone lately. Like it has been for the past 3 years. It's been really, really hard to launch a product. GM. They're kind of in a holding pattern getting the new midsize trucks out.
Look what COVID's done to the entire automotive community.
Well, it's wild. It's like this industry is so fragile, clearly, that it takes so long for it to bounce back. And
Settlemire. used to say that. Well, he didn't say fragile. He said fragmented. Used to be the big three: Ford, GM, Dodge. Done. Well, there's Hyundai, Kia, this, that, the other thing. It's just fragmented so much.
Well,
and it's harder. It's
well,
just harder.
Again, it goes back to, it's just like maybe they'll just, because the other thing too is like the help, those Mopar customers, they'll get a TRX, they'll get a Wrangler, like they'll get a truck, like that goes back to the thing where it's like that's where the customers are going to orbit. They're just not going to go back into muscle cars because they're not necessarily gonna. There's not necessarily gonna be any. And these cars too. And think about it like over time. Think about like the genesis of the muscle car. Think about what happened in the 70s, and the 80s, and going into the 90s and into the present. It's like those vehicles and their quality, they like and their presence, like it lives and dies by political climate, by economic climate. Right, like these are very, very recreational vehicles, right? And so that's why they're always like kind of the first to go and the first to come back. They're always on this bubble, right? Like they're not utilitarian. They're not family vehicles. They're not. They serve no purpose for towing, hauling, camping. None of that stuff. They're purely for fun. So if you got extra scratch now, like you're not getting, you're probably not going to get the muscle car.
Why would you?
You can't offer all those things.
And the prices for the EVs are so much money. If you want to get into an awesome Hummer EV, that's $100,000 plus.
Oh, and you'll be waiting a while too, right? Like they had to push. I was talking to Duncan Aldrin because I got to drive the Hummer SUV, and the VP of GMC and I, we sat and we talked, and they had to basically push out the Hummer Edition 1 because they were only going to build it for 1 year. They're still building. It's like now it's 23 model year, and they're only going to build those vehicles, like the Edition 1 products, until they're done. And then they'll do the other trims. So it's just like everything is now kind of getting stacked up and backlogged because, again, like production constraints. Why? Well, it's a very large and complex vehicle, right? Like to secure the amount of rare earth metals you need for a 230 kilowatt battery pack, right? It's basically the size of two other like normal EV battery packs. But again, it's a Hummer, right? Like it's supposed to be like this. Right. It's a feature. So, I just and I love the Hummer because there's a sense of levity to it. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's fun. The kids love it, by the way. The kids love it. They love crab walk, WTF mode, everything. It's not to say that like we can't have fun with electric cars.
But
if
you want to play, you gotta pay.
It's not even that. It's like
it is $100,000 you gotta pay.
It is, but it's like you gotta like it's not. There's no drama, right? Like where's like that. Having an engine and having to be able to like feel everything going on, it's all part of the experience. Now it's just like push button go. It's like
yeah. Well, it sounds like you're leading back into what I was talking about. The soul of the vehicle left. The heart of it. It's now just a car. It's not a lifestyle. It's not a means to friendship and companionship and all that BS that they, that's not BS, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just a car. If I can afford it, I will drive it. I will push the button and I will turn the wheel and I will get there.
And it's like every other performance EV is going to mostly feel the same way, right? Like how much, like it's all going to get real blurry.
I hope this is where I'm going to get a little more positive though, because you guys know that Last fall, I went over to a friend of a friend's house, and he had a 1963 Corvette split window, 100% original in every way except the battery and the belts and the tires, but everything else was perfectly original. And he had something to the effect of a $30,000 insurance policy on it. And we're like, you need to insure this thing for about $300,000 or better, And I got to sit in that. That's awesomeness number one. But awesomeness number two was when he took me for a ride and let me drive his Rivian truck. I had a blast driving that thing. That thing was kick ass. Yeah, it is push button, put pedal to floor, steer truck, but it's still fun. And it would harken back to when I got to ride in a Tesla. I'm like, yeah, it's fun, but is it going to be fun only for so long? Is the soul going to go away when it's just push button, steer car?
It's not, at the end of the day, it's kind of like not too far removed from what a muscle car does well, right? Which is go fast, straight, knuckle dragger. It's just like, it's missing all the other things. Plus, again, like, and just talking about the ownership experience, right? Like, it's more expensive to insure. It's more expensive to buy. If you're leasing one, it's probably more expensive. Like, it's just on and on and on. It's just like, we're all just kind of getting priced out. And if you read also like on these reports where people are paying a record number of Americans are paying $1,000 a month on a car payment. And the average car payment now is $700.
If my wife came out here and heard that, she'd be like, "That's bullshit."
I don't know who is doing this, but they're doing it.
Yeah.
How much do you really need? Like, then
they got it. What else are you gonna do?
Not spend your money?
It's nuts.
It's nuts. And
hold on to your used car.
The OEMs are just. They are.
Look at nothing and like it.
You own nothing, you will eat the bugs.
I want a hamburger. No, I want a cheeseburger.
So
you'll get nothing and like it.
You own nothing. You'll be. But it's just like we're so darn leveraged with these things, and the OEMs will just take our like they're just like, yeah, we introduced new pricing, and it was responded to like, well, it's like, what? It's like, guys, I think there's a bubble. I think
they got bills to pay. They got bills to pay.
They got bills. Yeah, they got EVs to pay for. But again, like, how are you going to do that?
They have pressure to succumb to financially. Use those words. That's it. You know what? They're going to use those words. And in the current market trends, we have pressure to succumb to financially. Therefore, we are raising the price of all of our vehicles by X amount of dollars because it makes business sense and all that bullshit. Plus, I need my stock options and all that.
Okay, so let's go back to Camaro.
Okay.
I want to go to the highlights.
So do you want to go? I want to go over these rumors. I had to debunk. I wrote this lovely article today just for this occasion, actually.
All right.
This is where we get good, everybody. Come on, pay attention.
So all right. Blah 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 blah. We opened this up. It was like, oh, it's not the end of the Camaro story. It's like, if you wanna hold the bag on that, if you really want to hold the bag on that, I'm not gonna stop you from holding the bag on that. Like, the rest of us know how to take rejection, I think, a little more in stride. And like otherwise, you see like Camaro SUV rumors, Camaro sedan rumors, Camaro brand rumors, and so I go like line by line on musclecarsandtrucks.com, and I just like, as the guy who has been bulletproof on the reporting years ahead of when GM wants to make the news official, and I'm sure the same people back then were calling me some sort of like rumor monger and fake news man and whatever.
Chris, what is it?
The quote?
What were you accused of today?
Not even being a human. That a robot wrote the article.
Yes.
Yeah. So I had ChatGPT write this for me, and through ChatGPT, we were able to debunk that there is no Camaro SUV coming. Like it's just that it's not coming.
Cringy vlogger.
No. I use those words and then they whatever. I'm not going to use that person anymore.
They use it on us.
I'm not going to give that person any more. I'm not giving that person any more breath. So there's not going to be a Camaro brand, right? So there's not, and therefore there's not going to be a Camaro SUV, and there's not going to be a Camaro sedan. What is going to happen instead, right? Instead of a Camaro SUV, there's the Blazer EV-SS that has 557 horsepower and 648 pound-feet of torque. That's a lot. And it kind of negates the need for a Camaro SUV, especially now when battery electric vehicles are so heavy. And it's like, what do you want a Camaro SUV to actually be and look like for you? Like, it just doesn't. They'll do all of these things with Equinox and Blazer. There's no room for Camaro. Sorry. Camaro sedan, same thing. What I think people thought was going to be a Camaro sedan is actually a Corvette sedan. And it's an electric Corvette sedan that they're going to go after the Porsche Taycan with.
I think they were thinking the same because of the Mach-E. They're like, oh well, Mustang has an electric sedan. Why doesn't Camaro do the same thing?
Because Ford doesn't have a Corvette. That's it.
Fair. That's fair.
You know,
keep talking. I'll be right back.
So because Ford is able to expand these nameplates, and they've done it in a way more organized way, right? Like, because you saw it with Bronco Sport, all these trim levels, a whole family of vehicles. Same thing with Mustang. You got Mustang Mach-E, and they played their cards right well with that. And it's like, yeah, even though Ford is losing money, they're able to keep the formula of the V8 muscle car going because of the Mustang Mach-E, right? Like that was the plan. GM probably got caught flat-footed on that. I don't know. Either way, like, and we mentioned this before. I think we mentioned this back when you first reported the news, or even before we reported the news. And it's just like the Corvette and the Camaro were eventually going to be at odds with each other, and they were never going to get rid of the Corvette.
No.
So it always served the Camaro well to play in a sandbox that was away from what the Corvette was doing, and 6th Gen didn't do that. Camaro Hybrid, we talked about that a little bit. That was the original plan for the 7th generation Camaro. And it would have been a 24, 25 model year car. And it probably would have been pretty cool. It just would have been expensive. It would have been an easier pill to swallow, nonetheless, than a Camaro EV, or even canceling the Camaro. Right. I probably would have still complained, though, because it's just like, yeah, it's cool. It's expensive. Because that's pretty much what I say about literally everything these days. Yeah, it's cool. It's just expensive. Like, what? When are we going to come to work? That's why I like the Maverick so much, because it's kind of like the only vehicle that feels like it's a return to sensibility.
Simplicity.
That too. But it's a sensible product, price-wise, everything. Then there's the Camaro. So, no Camaro EV sedan, no Camaro EV SUV, no Camaro brand, no souped up, LT4 finale happening, which I think we talked about. But is there going to be a Camaro electric coupe? As if to say, like, is there going to be something to rival the electric Dodge Charger that's coming out? Probably the most plausible of all of it, where I can say that I know for sure the other things aren't happening. I'm not going to flat out go and be like, at the time of this writing, there's zero plan for an electric Camaro coupe, because I think there is, from what I'm told, there is, but it hasn't been pushed into like the green light yet. It's not anything that's left a whiteboard. right? So like there's a very big difference between what's proposed and what is approved. And things that are proposed they're wild, right? Like they're spaceships, and it could be anything. So there's no, because it can be anything, it means nothing.
Do you think a leadership change at General Motors could change that?
Do I think a leadership change at General Motors can change? I would be reluctant to say yes, because at this point, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. And I think Mary Barra has done a pretty good job as a CEO in terms of keeping the company solvent and on the course of profitability, which is what a CEO is supposed to do. And I can also say that of all the CEOs in the past, how far you want to go back? She's been the best one. That's not a crazy thing to say. Like, who's a better CEO in the past 40 years, 50 years even, than MTV? You know, it's like, and it's just kind of like, I understand that not a lot of people like her, but I was like, who is better?
Her job isn't to be liked. It's not her job.
It's not, and it's not to be like. Although, I mean, it does help. You know, it definitely will increase morale, right? Like, it's going to make people want to work for you. But I don't think she's been a bad CEO, and I think that, you know, she also trusts the judgment of all the other leaders around her, right? Like, Mark Royce is the president. You don't think Mark Royce doesn't want a Camaro to exist?
Well, that's what I meant. Like, if say Mary Barra, she decides she's going to retire, Mark Royce becomes CEO.
I mean,
he's a big performance guy.
Well, yeah, he's a lot of his ideas that have come to fruition are things like Z06, C8 Z06, and the LT6 engine, things that a lot of people seem to like. But I don't think that his influence is already as big as it's going to be. I think he can call the shots on product already, and you know, it's just they had to make a judgment call. Cars not selling, they need to restructure for EVs. They need to streamline the company, and they laid off a bunch of people. Fast forward to the present, and I don't know if like people are fully subscribed to what GM is doing, decision wise. Like, but what are they going to do? Just because, like I said, we're entering an era of compliance again, and they need to build these vehicles that comply,
that make money.
Well, they have to try to make everyone happy, which
they're not in the happiness business. They're in the money making business.
And I'm guessing
if they don't make money, they go under.
What I mean by that is you got to make Washington happy, and a customer's got to be satisfied enough to even want to buy the product, right? Like,
which is probably why they're investing in new V8 engines.
So we can talk about that. It is probably exclusively going to just be for trucks,
right?
And that sucks, right? Because it's just like, they've got everything that they need to make a new Camaro. Like they can still, the Cadillac sedans aren't going away. They'll go away, but not as fast as people think they're going to go away. And you've got a new V8 engine coming. You just make the Camaro a little bigger. You add the new V8, 2.7 L3P as the base engine. You do what you can to keep it simple. Undercut the Mustang as much as you can. Everyone's happy. I don't think that the trajectory is so far down a certain path that for them to pull all of these levers and get this to happen would just be, I don't know.
I'm looking at the EU. Okay. All right. Sean, thanks for posting that link.
Yep.
of the GM board of directors. I'm looking for anybody. Meg Whitman. She rings a bell.
Yeah, she used to be the CEO of HP a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
So but again,
one from
these people are not car people. Well, yes, they're car people, but they're business people.
Boards of directors it don't exist to be car people. Like they're not in there. You bring in like multi-disciplines from across industries, right? And that's how you get a board of directors. It's not let's get a bunch of fun guys drinking beer on a Saturday night from Detroit to run a company.
That's how it started, but that's not how it can be today.
Well, if there's a lesson to be learned, don't go public.
Yeah, right on. I mean, if the market research, like all those people on Sean, thank you again for posting that link to the GM board of directors. And I won't disagree. Chris, do you remember meeting Mary Barra back at Superfest?
It's
we're just sitting down chatting with her. Little did we know that she would become the chairman and chief executive officer of GM at the day. She was just great.
She was
sharp and all that.
Guys, Mary Barra was head of product when the Camaro Z28 came out.
Yep.
So
we were sitting in front of a ZL1 and we were talking about the ZL1 and what was coming next. Chris and I could not talk about what was coming next, but we knew that the Z28 was coming next. Yeah. But when her role shifted to chairman and chief executive officer, she had to say, I don't care about what is awesome or cool.
She drove
I've got to make money.
The other thing too is like she drove a Camaro and she's on record as saying that was her favorite car.
Yes, I asked her that question at the New York Auto Show.
So everyone gets hung up on her as a reason that Camaro is going away. You guys have no idea what it takes to run a car company. You have no, especially in one like the size of General Motors, you have zero inkling on what sort of factors are involved here.
Here's what I'll say. All these people on that board of directors page that Sean linked to, if they had defining evidence that if you take a giant watermelon and you put an engine in it and put 4 wheels on it and it would sell, they'd make it a car. That's their job, to make the money, to sell the cars that people buy.
I hear
you. And Mary and all those people, they might be awesome. They might love the shit out of the Camaro, but if it doesn't sell, they can't just pull a switch and say, sell more, put more of these out on the parking lot and on the dealership lots, because they're not going to sell. And they haven't been, and that's why the car is going away.
I mean, the last 2 years, all the chip shortages have really, really affected the Camaro.
Oh, that's a big influence.
I mean, you can't sell what you can't make, and that's exactly where Camaro's been the last 2 years. I mean, I think in 2021 they only sold 12,000 units, if that. And the fourth gen sold more than they did in the final year. And that's
so what's the big shock about what's happening today?
That's crazy.
Hey, here's what I want to do. I made a prediction that oh yes, they do, Scott. Chris hit that quote. Hit that quote.
Okay.
There we go. As a person that used to work for GM's advertising divisions and their contractors, there's actually signs that said, if you drive a GM vehicle, you can park here. Otherwise, over there. There's still some loyalty there. Yeah. But I want to talk about predictions, because Muscle Cars and Trucks predicted or used facts and data to say, at this time, there's no 7th gen Camaro. And this is going back to 2019. And Manny, as you being the editor, you took a lot of heat for that, and you held fast. And guess what? That is still true today.
That was also when we launched the site too, and that was the very first article, I believe.
No, the very first article was the ECU of the C8 Corvette.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's right. That's right.
And I took a lot of heat for that too, right? Because they're just like, they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. We'll get 1,000 horsepower car. It's just like
Maybe,
got
sort of.
some, and they're all broken.
Yeah, there's
They're all,
hacky
bro,
ways,
they're all under a tarp in a California garage. You get one run. It's like, oh, look at twin turb skis. I got my.
Yeah, and what's her face and all that. But here's where I'm going. There was a while back when Chris and I were still doing the Camaro Show podcast on a regular basis, and I had when this goes right back to what I was saying before about key people in the Camaro program that had significant influence going off to do other greater things. One, and I mentioned Al Oppenheiser. Al, if you're watching this, that's right, me and you, buddy. He went off to do phenomenal things. Manny, what did Al Oppenheiser go off to do?
Hummer program.
And I said, you know what? It'd be really cool if Al were to come back to the Camaro team, because Al was the chief engineer for the 5th Gen Camaro. It'd be kind of cool in the future. One day, way off in the distance, Al would come back to the Camaro and bring that Hummer EV technology to Camaro. Chris, remember that? I used to say this all the time. Like, it'd be really awesome.
Camaro
Manny, no facts. We don't have the facts, but just speculation. How close, how far off could I be?
I think you'll see a Camaro with crab walk before 2035.
With crab? Why would you crab walk on a Camaro?
Did everything, dude.
So you can go down the drag strip sideways. I have such respect for Al. Al's such a good guy, great engineer. That's his job. He's a phenomenal engineer. And he did such great things for the Camaro, along with a lot of other people. And I don't want to discount that by my cynicism, but I would love to see Al back having a hand in another Camaro one day that might be on a dry erase board in some executive office someday, that might get exclamation marks written next to it, or might get wiped away with a paper towel. That's where we're at, right?
Yep.
Okay. Those are the facts.
Yep.
It's just an idea.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you got designers playing with things, concepts, ideas, but you know.
What is the status of GM right now as a whole? Are they still all working from home? Is there some people in the office? Is there some people at the Renaissance Center?
They announced a mandatory return to work policy late last year that started early this year. People were not happy.
Well, yeah, I saw a lot of people reporting from the Rensen saying, hey, all the businesses are wondering when this return to work policy is actually going to be enforced because there ain't nobody here.
So, as far as I understand, it didn't apply to all departments, and it also came down to your boss. So, if your boss was like, you don't have to, like, we can Zoom this, like. Because the thing is, too, is like a lot of people, you know, they took that to heart. They said, just like how some people are taking to heart that this isn't the end of the Camaro story. And a lot of people took to heart that said, it's like, you said we could work from home. I moved to Traverse City. Like, I live in Grand Rapids now. I like they had major changes in their lifestyle from this shift of not having to go into the office all the time. Now, if you're a development engineer and stuff, like, you didn't leave, you're not too far away from Milford. Like, you're still kind of you're still kind of there. Or if you can only you only have to show up like 2-3 days a week, you definitely didn't sell your house, right? Like, you might have invested more in the cabin up north, but you didn't sell your house. But other people were also hired, not having to ever even have lived in Michigan. Wow. That I know of. I know someone that lives in North Carolina. They never had to even move. They work for GM. And they don't work at like an IT facility or anything. They're in like comms or marketing or something. Like,
Chris, are you 100% back in the office now?
Oh yeah, I've been
every day. That's what I thought. Manny,
I've been
what
since
about you? Are you
2021.
going to the office, the muscle cars and trucks corporate offices these
I'm
days?
100% in the office. I never left.
I've been working from home for about 4 years now. And I've accomplished so much more in my professional life than I ever have before. I will never, ever take a job where I can't work from home now.
Don't you miss human interaction, though?
Nope. I hate everybody.
I do.
It's funny. It's supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
Well, it is kind of sad, right? Because it's like there are the people who are just like are in the office and they're alone.
Yeah. And
our whole office is
I'm alone in my office too. That means I get crap done. I've accomplished so much. And I also know somebody who's very, very close to me, a good friend of mine that works in a larger corporate retail situation. And they have also been working from home in the same home that I'm in. And and lately she goes in once a week, and she's like, I just can't wait to get back home because I get more done at home. You know,
I guess
our
it all
job is to be
depends
busy.
on your position.
Yeah, there's so much distraction in my area and my wife's as well. I do miss the interaction with people and everything. But every time I find out that I do go into the office, which is probably about 3 or 4 times a year now, it's almost like I got to get home and get back to work because it's just distraction at that point. You know, so
it's like there's so many people saying that working from home is a distraction. And they need you back in the office so you can.
The best ever. Oh, I've accomplished so much. It's me personally. Yeah, it's a case by case basis, but me personally, yeah. Gosh, Sean, you moved from California to Texas?
Yeah.
Wow, didn't even know that.
Yeah, you moved
Some
from
Texas
Oceanside.
beer. I still remember that B-52, the sheets to the wind. Whoa, something kick ass that you brought me. Oh, that one time. Oh, it was great beer. God, I love that beer. That collaboration.
Let's end the Camaro show with some highlights, and then also Camaro's going to keep racing. What? The name's gone, but they're gonna still use it.
Yep. Well, they did that. They did that in 2002 as well. The 2002 Camaro was the end of the 4th gen, but they were still using the likeness or the body in NHRA drag racing, Top Fuel Funny Car.
We all know it. There's very similar, it's very
vague sticker, right?
Yeah, it's a sticker.
So Australia, they have that racing league called Supercars, and they just got new Camaros and the new Mustangs racing down there too already. And they're probably going to keep that car racing for a while. Like that was the rumors, like 2026, whatever. But that's not true. That's not the case. But they are gonna keep racing in Australia. They're probably gonna keep racing in NASCAR. So, in the motorsports side, it's not going to change a whole lot.
It's just a representation
at the Lansing plant. Probably not.
No,
I mean, it'll January 2024 is when the last one's supposed to roll off the assembly line. So, I mean, that's a dead of winter.
It's all going out with a whimper, my man. It's just
Here's a funny little story, Chris. I think you know this, but if you don't, a long time ago, I was a material handling engineer when I was in my mid-20s, and I designed some of the conveyor systems that moved Cadillacs down the line at that very plant. And at the time, this mid to late 90s, there was a kick-ass little sub shop just outside of the factory, right next to all the liquor stores and check cashing companies and all that. And they made some kick-ass sandwiches. And so we go there for lunch. That's if I were to look into my crystal ball, that's where the party's going to be. It's going to be everybody going, okay, guess what? I got to go to the unemployment line. But first, I'm going to grab a quick sub here. I had to look at a map to see the name of the sub shop. Again, if it still even exists. but they make great sandwiches. And then I'm going to go over to the liquor store, and then I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. That's the party. There's going to be a signing of the last car or something, and that hood is going to go into some museum or somebody's office.
We'll probably take the car and put it in the Heritage Museum.
Yeah, which is great. But all those people, the fine, as Settlemeyer would say, the fine men and women of General Motors, they're going to move on to something else. I want to show you guys something. For who's paying attention now, you've never seen this before, and you'll probably never see it again. But when I talk about the spirit of Camaro, the 5th gen, this is where it was. Right here. These are all the disciples, of which my name is right over there. There it is. Right there. I really wish that GM had continued on with the disciple program. Not with me, or not with any of those other 14 people there, but just continued on saying, what do you want out of this car? What should we do with this car? What should we not do with this car? Maybe, I don't know. I like to think that if they had, there would be more input where they could keep the car going. Even if it became a 4-cylinder turbo, the LB3, Manny, right? L3B. Great. If it sold the car and made the money and it made the shareholders happy, keep it going. And maybe that's what's going to happen. Maybe that's what they mean by the whole next chapter or whatever. I think the Camaro as we know it is dead. The spirit is gone. The soul is gone. The people are gone. It may come back as a new something or other, but as we know it, that's it. That's what I think. And I hate to say it. It hurts to say. Some of you know me well and know that how much it does hurt to say.
Yeah.
Chris, I mean, you and I have been doing the Camaro thing for half of our lives.
I mean, we got together in 96 and it's been that way ever since.
In the spirit of pure enthusiasm, we got nothing out of it. Literally.
We got to kind of put our little thumbprint on some things here and there.
We got some kick-ass experiences. That's a fact. But
oh yeah.
Is there another chapter? I sure hope so. But for anybody who is reading too far between the lines, please don't spread false rumors, because that just gives false hope. And that sounds negative. Keep the faith, sure. Settlemeyer would say that. Keep the faith. But time's got to change.
Yeah.
We all got to change. And now I'm going to go into some sort of poetry.
Some really world-class cars in the last, since the car came back in 2010. And then they went, when they introduced the 1LE car, best bang for the buck 5th gen, I think you could buy.
Without a doubt.
And only a $3,500 option, maybe even less than that.
1LE. Yeah, it was a tax return.
Yeah.
I remember. I think my review on that was something that was the best way to spend your tax return. I think I drove it in April.
Yeah. Then the ZL1, and then the killer track car of a Z28, which the 6th gen never got.
I love my LS7 Corvette. I love this car, and it's not a Camaro. I am part of the problem. I'll be the first to admit it.
So highlights though. Looking back at Gen 6, for me,
phenomenal car.
It all happened, I think, in the second half. So LT1,
paid attention.
Oh, the LT1.
LT1, the fact that you could get the ZZ632 Copo, right? I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to this one, but the Garage 56 Le Mans car. So they're taking a NASCAR Camaro and they're speccing it to where it's got lights and mirrors, and they're going to just race at Le Mans with it for 24 hours. And it's going to be
no shit.
And they've got it's Jimmy Johnson, Jenson Button, and one guy that's won Le Mans once or twice already. It's a star-studded. Jensen Button is he's an F1 driver, and he's driving this truck around Le Mans for a couple stints. It's going to be maddening. I saw the car at Daytona when I went down there last month, and man, it's going to be like it is. This is going to be a once in a lifetime type of thing. And
how can we see that, Manny?
The Garage 56 Camaro?
Uh-huh.
Well, there's plenty of coverage on Muscle Cars and Trucks. And if you visit the Muscle Cars and Trucks Instagram, we did a reel on it. And if you're on the Muscle Cars and Trucks Facebook page, that's another one. Or you can buy a plane ticket and you can go to Le Mans for yourself. Which, by the way, I looked into it. It's already sold out.
Wow.
160,000 plus. Sold out. Gone. Done.
Good grief. Yeah. That's awesome. So the spirit of performance vehicles is still alive. It's just people put their money elsewhere.
Yeah.
Well, the racing has gotten pretty exciting this year because there's so many new entries, and this Camaro is only racing at Le Mans, and it's only racing at Le Mans once. And this is how Chevy is goodbye.
So I am ready to bail out for the evening because I have some landscaping to do in the morning early. Shift in perception. But Chris, good to see you again as always. Of course, we talk every other day with it. Yeah. Thank you all for watching. I'm going to bail out. If you guys want to keep going, feel free. But Banny is, of course, thank you so much for your insight and knowledge on that. MuscleCarsandTrucks.com is the place.
That's where we're at now, guys. Head over there. Otherwise, you never know when an episode of the Camaro Show will pop up like this one every 2 years or so, 3 years. I don't know what
this big news.
The last one.
Chris, hit the Christmas box.
I would like to.
Ding, ding.
I would like to talk about the Le Mans Camaro in June if it does well.
All right, maybe we'll be back.
We can do that. We can totally do that.
It'd be fun.
But if you want to see us do that, you got to leave us a comment below, or
don't call the podcast line.
Don't call the podcast line at
586-486-3182.
Don't call that number. Is it still active, Chris?
Yes, it is, and I still own the number.
Don't call it.
But don't call it.
We won't reply.
We might. We might?
No, we won't.
No. All right. Everybody, thank you so very, very much. Tough one to do, but we felt it was to do the honor. Let's end by saying thank you.
Elvis is upstairs sleeping. There's no way I could even get him down here.
I want to end this by saying thank you all to those who know who we are, first of all. And second of all, thanks to everybody on behalf of all the men and women of General Motors. Thank you. Thank you all. Your job might shift. You might have other things to do, go from car to car, but there's still spirit in the car, no matter how long it does or doesn't get produced.
Well said.
That's all. That's it.
Until next episode, guys, we'll see ya. See ya. Bye, guys.